So, hello everyone. My name is Akash Agrawal, and I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome you to our LinkedIn audio event, The Role of Generative AI in Consumer Marketing. The event is presented by Maven Hub, your gateway to the latest and emerging tech, brought to you by the absolute finest in the space. So don't forget to follow our page, as Sean just mentioned a while ago. It's on LinkedIn. It's called Maven Hub HQ. So today's agenda is packed with actionable insights from our speakers, and it is structured into three sections. Section one is a comprehensive introduction to generative AI and its impactful applications in marketing. In section two, you will learn about practical strategies on how to initiate your journey into generative AI in marketing. And then finally, we'll get into the section three, where we will explore the future implications of generative AI and try and uncover insights for the road ahead, because this is an absolutely fast evolving field. And after these discussions, we will get into a Q&A session in the end, where you can engage with our speakers and also share any specific thoughts or insights that you have from your own experience from within the field. So when we get into the section, just raise your hand and I will bring you up on stage. So keep your questions ready as we go along through the session. And a quick reminder, the views expressed by our speakers are personal and they do not reflect those of their organization. And of course, as we always say, please do your own research before making any decisions. The content here is purely educational. So now let's kick off with the introduction of our esteemed speakers. So Marco, may I invite you to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Marco Andre, and I'm currently heading up marketing and generative AI excellence at Novartis. Basically, what I do is I coach senior leadership teams on all things Gen AI and go-to-market. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Marco. Dr. Suren, could I invite you to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you so much, Akash. I think we are part of the Meta Shapers Hub, so glad we connected, and it's a great honor, pleasure to be here. Briefly about myself, I was building in AI space for the past 11, 12 years. Like, we started with AI music, then created my own generative AI platform with a multitude of like multimedia production as a background, like video, image. I'll talk more on those aspects. And then I've been listed by Forbes 40 under 40 EU as in the category of AI and entertainment, like in 2022. So yeah, we got a lot of also big users, and then for the other companies, I'm also managing AI and growth hacking departments for Revolt Games and a few other clients of mine. So really excited to be here and share our thoughts on this topic.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Suren, and it's great to have you here and join us today. So now on to us, the host. So I have here with me Sean, my regular partner in crime. Sean.
Cool, thanks, Akash. So I've been working in the kind of Web3 and innovative tech space in Southeast Asia for the last couple of years. Previous to that, my background's been within business development, cloud computing, and a number of other areas in the tech space. And so that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. So finally, my name is Akash Agrawal. I'm a strategy consultant in Web 2 and Web 3. I have over 20 years of experience. Previously, I have led brand marketing and business divisions at Sony, Nike, and Walmart. Okay, so that gets the essentials out of the way. So let's dive right in. So generative AI is sort of establishing itself as a dynamic force, and that is reshaping the marketing landscape amongst many others. And as what we are seeing right now is that it's playing a significant role in consumer marketing by enabling hyper-personalization at scale, automating content generation, improving efficiency, while potentially delivering a high ROI for all of those activities. So generative AI then actually from that perspective is not just a productivity tool, but we can call it a game changer when it comes to the possibilities of innovating in marketing. And that is what we are seeing right now happening, and probably Marco is very deeply involved in. So can we actually rewrite the rules of consumer engagement, and can we propel our brands into an unassailable position using generative AI? So those are the questions that we really need to ask ourselves, and we'll try and address and answer as we go along during the session. So Dr. Suren, let me start with you. And at a very base level, if you can very briefly comment on, so there are different types of AI. So very briefly, if you can comment on how generative AI is different from other forms of AI. So it sets a context for us for this particular discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So on a very kind of basic level, or just for the whole audience on the same level, let me try to simplify that. In simple words, I think it stands for yet another form of AI, artificial intelligence, but it has a unique ability to create new original content that kind of relies on pre-existing data. Let's call that data set like that. And then, unlike traditional AI models, this generative AI is capable of producing diverse outputs, because traditional models are used to work on predefined rules and patterns, right? But generative AI is more creative and kind of goes beyond the boundaries of predefined patterns. So that allows us to create such multimedia outputs as music, images, videos, and more. And then this creative capacity of generative AI makes it a powerful tool for fostering innovation, pushing the boundaries of what AI can achieve in terms of like generating novel and dynamic content. Akash, that's a few cents from my side.
Yeah, sure. So we understand that it is more from a generative capability. So maybe you want to pick up one or two of these capabilities of generative AI and link it to specific marketing related tasks and challenges that people can within the marketing departments or CMOs or brand managers or marketing managers could address today.
Yes. So for my company, AI Algorithm, and one of the other, let's say, Revolve Games that I'm working. I have also built their full AI strategy and automation pipeline. So I'll be very specific with examples. I want to make this session very practical for the audience, like to get up as much value as possible. So, for example, it can start with video production. Nowadays, especially video is the king, and then average retention rate of people consuming information is usually first 10 to 15 seconds of the content, right? So just coming from that logic, we can use such tools as Midjourney for creating very nice designs, prompting. And then before Midjourney, ChatGPT and other models like BART and others can help you actually prompting and fine-tuning your model. And then once you fine-tune, you can go and prompt to the Midjourney and generate like those images as part of the video production flow. And then you can bring the Midjourney to the Lumen 5. This Lumen 5 AI is able also to convert your blogs into the multitude of bite-sized pieces of videos. So that way you can maximize your output. Let's say you have a very important featuring on Forbes or on other top publication like CNBC. You can have multitude of videos, and even for advertising purposes, you can use that Lumen 5 or similar ad generative AI platforms to create multitude of contents and push paid ads like in very short period of time. We're talking about 15-20 minutes commercials basically. So I think that's very valuable in terms of content production. I would say like a video is the king in my opinion. So I took that one niche and I tried to bring it or clear, exemplify this.
Yeah, so talking a little more about video, as you mentioned. So right now, where we are today, how difficult it is right now for an AI model to actually generate hyper realistic videos. So is deep learning and GANs, as in your generative adversarial networks, getting deployed into this to make them better and better as much stronger tools as we go ahead? What exactly are you seeing?
Shall I comment, or we're making Marco?
Go ahead, please. No, this was for you. I mean, it's just following up on the videos that you talked about.
Okay, awesome. Yes, sure. So I think my absolute favorite one is Runway ML. So Runway has been the earliest pioneer in producing the highest quality generative AI video, and then their recent kind of a generative network, adversarial network GAN updates, I think made it even more precise and almost, I would say, I mean, a lot of companies already started using it even for the movie production. I created for my own AI MetaHuman Cassandra AI movie production for Monaco. So it's more like based on Monaco stories. So I'm going to present it during this Monaco Entertainment World Summit. I'm invited to speak in May 2024. I think we are almost there, Akash, just to be short. I think we're almost in the, at least right now, even Hollywood movie producers are contacting me asking to create short pieces that they will be able to include in the movies. So I think in a short content, But by short content, I mean some episodes, like short episodes from the real movie. We are able already with not only Runway, but I have built some other model myself as well. With different proprietary models, we are able to get even that Hollywood movie kind of short reel level, in my humble opinion.
Okay. Awesome. So before I jump over to Marco, one quick fun question maybe for you, Suren.
Sure.
How far are we from a full-length Hollywood movie then?
Full length, I think let's give it 3 to 4 years max.
Okay. So write that down, people. 3 to 4 years.
Yes, max. I think so. I mean, I'm very a bit pessimistic maybe, but some optimistic people say even 2-3 years, honestly. I'm reading industry news daily, but yeah, I'd say 3-4 just to be honest.
Okay, awesome. That's what I've been hearing. Marco, let me jump over to you. So marketing is, of course, your core area. And we know marketing is all-encompassing from product roadmaps to pricing to positioning to distribution strategies, communication, brand storytelling, and then so much more. So maybe we can pick up 1 or 2 things from here. So therefore, actually, given the complexity of marketing strategies, how can organizations use generative AI for, let's say content creation, media strategy, or measurements, so as to, specifically reach their audience segments across diverse platforms?
Yeah, I think interestingly enough, I think AI is here to make marketing way more simple. If I think about, I always like to use very concrete examples of the day-to-day. I think the first one is the speed in which you can create content is going to be incredible. I think we're going to go into an age in which it's not so much about briefing, it's not so much about telling, this is about showing. So you can very easily nowadays, if you have an idea, I was a zero in Photoshop. I would spend 8 hours in Photoshop and at the end, nothing would come out. So nowadays I can, if I'm briefing an agency, for instance, I can show rather than telling some of the ideas that I have. And I think that's going to show that we can actually do rapid prototyping much faster. And that's going to give way to unparalleled creativity, I think. I think the other thing is how you scale, right? So there's the content you create, but there's also how you scale across, if you think about multinationals, across markets. So if you think about, for instance, media optimization, I think, and I was a digital native, so I'm a bit speaking against myself, but all the media optimization that happened throughout the years, it kind of removed a bit the soul of marketing. And nowadays, what you'll be able to do very quickly, you can go from a personal level, consumer behavior, to an ad optimization in multiple languages. This is something typically you would have to have a huge machine behind that. And I think the third thing, which is a possibility, is also a huge challenge for all of us, is that the average, it won't be enough anymore, right? So AI is going to elevate everything. So what is average is going to become below average. What is good is going to become average. So to be able to stand out, it won't be how polished your copy is or how good your content is. It's actually the story you're able to tell anchored on the human insight. So it's going to completely step change how we do marketing. And I think it's a really cool time to work in marketing. But of course, as a marketer, I'm biased.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more on that, Marco. So one, of course, is the speed with which, you can do your prototyping, all of the other things that you talked about. Another thing maybe you want to, touch upon is maybe from an automation and from an SEO perspective. So how do you see that getting impacted with generative AI?
Let's think about, again, trying to use examples. Mm-hmm. Generating a video copy that you want to scale across many geographies. Now, how it works now, you generate a master asset, you send to an agency, you translate it or you dub it, depends. And then you have process of review and send it to the market. I think right now with tools like Agen, for instance, you can literally translate that copy, change the person's accent, intonation, mouth movement, and do that in a matter of not even days, sometimes hours. So that whole process of automating something that before was very manual has a huge impact. I think the other thing on automation, which particularly I love, is we spend so much time doing marketing, sales collaterals, presentations. I don't know about you, but I cry every time I spend 10 minutes changing the font size or a line slide. So what now with tools that you have, Copilot is one of them, you can go very quickly from having stuff in your brain to a story that you want to tell that you turn into a collateral. To answer your question about SEO, I think there's going to be whole new disciplines being created. I think at a certain point we will have SEO for GPTs, because you need to make sure it's being sourced and shown to consumers in some form of GPT, ChatGPT or other. It is something that translates what you have as a product and as a brand. So I think there's going to be a whole new discipline being created around that.
Great point, Marco. So would you see GPTs actually getting, so like OpenAI, of course, has opened their GPT store. So do you see that picking up as time goes along with specialized, agents doing specialized tasks which get adopted within the organizations?
I think, for me, the hope with generative AI, paradoxically, is we become a bit more human. Because I think we spent a lot of time doing things that don't matter necessarily. They matter for the work, but they're not a good use of our brain. And we spend a lot of time doing things that at the end don't allow us to have human connections. And that's the power of it. Yes, there's this whole, just for the audience, there's this whole talk about agent GPTs, which in a nutshell is someone or an agent, GPT agent, that automates something for you. An example is calendar management. If you have a calendar on an email, a request, and GPT can automatically scan in your calendar and propose a slot. So that's one example of what we were talking about. So agents or no agents, even before that, there's already several tasks that you can do to actually, generating a copy that you want to put in different social media platforms, either personally or in your company. You can do that already. You can say, create me an ad for Instagram or for Facebook or a post on LinkedIn. So that level, even if it's not fully automated, it's tools that we all have already to use and make it work for us.
Cool, thanks for that, Marco. And kind of staying with you, some of we've touched upon a little bit is looking at kind of strategies and sort of practical measures that people can implement. What would you say, so if you were to give some initial steps that maybe some marketing managers could do to assess what their company's readiness is for utilising some of these tools and utilising Gen AI for their existing strategies and workflows, what would you suggest they could do?
Yeah, thank you, man. I think the first thing, and this sounds very realistic, is to talk about it. I still feel sometimes and I put myself in that category, we try to sweep it under the rug. We think this is just going to be a fad and it's not going to go anywhere. It is not going anywhere. It's actually going to be in our lives very, very present. I think the second thing is just use it. I see a lot of us worried with fear of missing out and, what should we read? And there's so much information. Just pick one tool and just use it. Use it for the most basic things. Use it to find a birthday present for your spouse. Use it to plan a trip. Use it to do a press release that you've been hammering at for a while. And if you work in marketing, yes, use ChatGPT, but try to go beyond it. There's tools such as Midjourney, Runway ML for video, 11 Labs for voice. Try one. Don't worry about doing anything. It's like, I don't know the demographics of our audience, but remember when we all started to use Excel or PowerPoint and then PowerPoint online? At the beginning, we were not worried about use cases, right? We were worried about making it work for us, and I think that's the most important thing to do. I think the other thing, Sean, is to apply it to your business. What I've seen, it's not the most shiny things that will give you the biggest bang for the buck. It's the most boring. How many times have you come across your Salesforce or marketing team trying to do objection handlers, for instance, spread out in 50 different documents? It is not shiny. You're not going to get promoted or get a Khan award for that. But it's going to probably save you a lot of time that you can spend connecting with your consumers, ideating great stories, and that will probably land you in Khan. So that would be my piece of advice, if that makes sense.
Nice, yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Thanks for that. And I couldn't agree more with I think there's that, it's very easy to become overwhelmed with all these tools that are suddenly becoming available. And, I think it can sort of put a lot of people off. I think, as you said, just getting started with one or two tools. I think we all see on LinkedIn these, 100 different AI tools that's, been posted by someone that can't have had the time to try all of those, where in reality it makes more sense is just pick one that might be applicable for you in your current role or in your team's roles, and have a play with it. Certainly that's a way to do it. So appreciate you kind of giving examples and whatnot of tools that people can get going with.
So, if I may ask, because I get these questions sometimes also, it's not only trying it, but talking about it. Talking with other people. Hey, I use this. I always tell this interesting story. My first interaction with ChatGPT at work was, I don't know, a year something ago, where I wanted to bring my dog to work. So I wanted to create the policy. So I started talking with the responsible people, and they said, we're more than happy to do it, but you need to create a dog policy for us, do a review, talk with other companies, etc. They did this on a Monday night. On a Tuesday morning, I appeared with a policy as a proposal for 3 pages, right? And what did I do? I went into ChatGPT. I think it was one of my first prompts. Can you create me a dog policy for me to be able to bring my... So that is an example of how you can use it very practically. Obviously, they thought I was crazy, that I'd spent my whole night writing a dog policy. I was that obsessed. But it's just an example of... If you talk with other people and you show them the possibility, you light a fire under them to make it work for them.
Totally. I love that. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Sometimes it's not that we're absolutely going to, move mountains overnight, but just the speed at which you could knock out a policy wasn't previously possible a few years ago. And that just allowed you to kind of quickly move on to other tasks. And I think that's where AI is a game changer, not just in terms of the task itself, but that it's saving time and allowing us to be more effective in the day-to-day. Awesome, cool. Suren, so kind of back over to you for this one. So for teams exploring Gen AI for the first time, what kind of resources or skill sets would you say are kind of key to have in place when implementing?
I will agree totally with Marco. I think we need to start small. Like even baby steps now is better than baby steps like in the late days of let's bring the parallel with Bitcoin. I think at least we can bring parallels in a sense that this is also the biggest thing that happened in the AI industry. So previously, I was working with a lot of AI models, but the problem was the computing and this GAN model wasn't extendable and it wasn't that scalable, right? So what happened with the launch of ChatGPT back in November 2022 is that they actually, after many years of iterations, trials and error, found a way how to make it mass market available for everyone with their computing powers. So obviously, it's very expensive to run, billions of dollars, if not more, on a daily, I think, even basis to sustain those flows coming to the system. I think what we experienced was this type of a revolution. So I would like to somehow bring it to the same crypto revolution thing as well, since I was early adopter of Bitcoin and some main cryptos back in 2012. So what I was seeing is that, again, people are confused. They try to do so many things at once. Instead of concentrating on doing a lot of different GPTs or different AI products, find for yourself, define first of all the niche, and then when you as a CMO or the head of growth presenting to the heads of your company and management is trying to understand your onboarding pipeline and the plan, start very precisely per department, right? So the tasks, I think, should be divided in a micro level. So let's say for it's operations, it's marketing, it's a sales, legal, finance, tech. Like first you define those and then have separate meetings with each of the department head, identify their strict, very precise pain points, and then only after that come up with the onboarding and the onboarding plan and the tools that you would need. I think this is very efficient approach for me at least for several top companies before, but otherwise you would be losing a lot of resources while trying to onboard people with so many kind of assumptions in your head and trying to kind of diversify in multitude of dimensions. So my advice would be start small, but start now because otherwise you will be late already. And then in the other parts, I'll try to cover also some special marketing and computing as well. I think I'll urge everyone now to also hop on that bandwagon of this Apple Vision Pro, this special marketing and the AI next level that this kind of device will be offering to all of us. I think we are happy to live in a very exciting times. That's just my opinion.
Marco, over to you. Would you like to add something to what Surin said just now from an organization perspective?
No, I think, in these things, I think it's, for me, it's just really trying and experimenting. I think sometimes, and I speak for myself, we put so much responsibility on the organization and on the company to do training, of course they have to do all of that and they need to take a responsibility. But it's like company culture. There's not such thing as company culture. The culture is us, and we should actually make an effort to be a part of it. And I think there's also agency for us. We need to do it for us because we are going to live in this world of AI for many years to come. So if we are not prepared, regardless if our company is not, we are not going to succeed. So I think taking a bit of agency back and doing it first for us, and with that helping the organizations we are on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Marco, there. I think so. It's more, it's of course about the organization, the culture, and how they're looking at, building these skills and capabilities. But I think it rests that much more on the individual also, because ultimately it's about their individual careers as well. And like people say right now, that it's not the AI that's going to replace you, but in the shorter term, it's the man with the AI who's going to replace you. So I think it's very critical that, we are on this continuous path of learning at an individual level. But talking about acquiring these capabilities, so I'm sure that's a question that you also get asked very often as to, where do I start? How do I start? So what would be your recommendation to people to start on this journey?
I think the first thing is experiment with, obviously, with boundaries, right? So I think the tech is going so fast. I was reading a graph today in which electricity took 37 years to have mainstream usage, whereas ChatGPT took 10 months. So that's the pace of tech. So it's going so fast that there's no possibility that either tech companies or regulators or countries or governments will keep pace. So I think the way to start is talk about it. Even the issues that are difficult and probably there's several ethical considerations around it, you need to talk about it and ask the questions. An example, if I use today an AI generated image, or my agency does that, I will not be copyright protected. So I need to be aware of that. And just by asking that question, how do I safeguard my brand into that context? That is how I think you start. And you probably have a lot of questions, open questions. Sometimes people ask me, are you worried about this? Are you worried about that? Yes, I'm worried. But I would be more worried if we would not be talking about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So the other thing, so when we're starting a particular project, for example, you mentioned about, starting small or picking up something. So when you're rolling out a project, of course, you need to define your objective as clearly as possible, of course. So whether it's about productivity boost or it's about cost saving or whatever that you're trying to do. And then, of course, you look at what is it that specific AI tool can do or cannot do. And that's where maybe you want to talk to your AI engineers or whoever's the agency that you're working with. Now, Another very important or critical aspect of that is from a data perspective. So in terms of data requirements and preparation, because that forms a very critical input into the AI model. So what considerations should brand managers or the project managers or the marketing teams keep in mind to maximize the effectiveness of a generative AI model?
So I think it's important also, and I'm just saying this to the audience, it's for me, it's also a question I get, and I wasn't so there's two things. One, there's applied AI, in which the models that you use, some of them are trained, or some others on your own data, sometimes on in public data like GPT. That is almost like applied AI is something you cannot have contact with. Okay, so meaning if you have an algorithm that optimizes your Salesforce itinerary, for instance, that's applied AI. On generative AI, I think there's a lot of consumer tools. We mentioned a few of them, in which it's not necessarily so important the data foundation that you have. So we're talking about an example would be Copilot, using Copilot on Excel, which you will use to do your budget reconciliation. So that's an example. The key thing that people need to understand is I always talk about three things. As marketers and as business leaders, we need to think about, when we make AI decisions, what are we going to build, what are we going to buy, and what we are going to do to co-build. A buy would be buy Copilot for your whole organization. That's an example. Or GPT teams. A build would be, you would just take open source large language model, an LLM, and you would train it on your own data. In those things, what people need to be aware, and a very good friend of mine, she's a data scientist. Currently, when we talk about data foundation, to make it again really concrete, this means that data scientists spend 70% of their time labeling data. And labeling data, to make it for someone that is not technical like me, is simply to have data identified in a way that can be crawled and made sense out of it. So I think that's something we need to have in the back of our minds, because the challenge I'm seeing in the business world with AI is you have business people that need to understand the tech beyond AI, and then you have tech people that need to understand the business we're trying to solve. And I think the role we can all have is to be bridgers, translating business into tech and tech into business, because the fastest we go into embracing this world in our organizations, I think the better it will be for all of us, because of some of the benefits that we discussed before.
Yeah, so I think perfectly put, Marco, in terms of that. So maybe I'll try and summarize this into sort of a framework in terms of everything that you said right now. So one, of course, is once you've defined your basic objectives very, very clearly. So whatever it is in terms of productivity or cost saving, then you get into looking at what the AI model can do and which really is the right model for that. From there on, you look at starting to look at what really is the data that is required. Do you really have that data or not? And that validation typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, would come from the technical team to say that yes, that this data is sufficient to feed into the model to generate the right kind of outputs that the business team is really looking at. And somewhere after this, of course, or in between comes the economics part of that, where you're looking at what kind of investments and what kind of ROIs, and direct link to that will be the build and buy that you mentioned. So whether you pick up an existing model which has already been trained on large LLMs and that suits your requirement, or you need to build that capability internally. So that becomes an important decision there. And what feeds into this is, of course, both your technical side and the business side. So maybe a technical diligence and a business diligence, which needs to be done together, and they need to work together. So that sort of creates a loose framework which people can actually use within their organizations. So I hope that summarizes.
Yeah, Akash. No, it's very well summarized. I would add just one thing.
Yeah.
Think about the future after the future. Okay, yeah, tomorrow you do all of these things, you free up 40% productivity. So the question I normally get in my workshops is, okay, so should I fire everyone? And I say, yeah, you can. That's one option. You can do that. But your competitor might decide not to do that. They might decide having the same number of people that is going to take AI and be 10 times faster, be 10 times more customer focused, develop content, have a wheel of insight to content to channel that is 20 times faster. So I think it's thinking about, okay, once you free up that productivity, what are you going to do with it? I would say that's equally important.
Absolutely brilliant input, Marco. Thank you for that. Sean, I think you had a question.
Yeah, cool. Søren, let's see if we can hear you a little bit better now with the next one. But what would be some of the common pitfalls or challenges that you'd expect marketing teams to encounter sort of during the initial stages of implementing Gen AI, and how can they proactively mitigate against these?
So just a short comment on Marco's nice kind of explanation of the data set and how it differs on the different environments. So I would like to bring some small examples so the general audience can also relate to their day-to-day activities. So imagine, I mean, you know that there are two types of unsupervised and supervised learning in AI. So generative AI kind of reflects both, is attached to both like a supervised and unsupervised learning. So in the supervised environment, you basically tell AI model, like, I want to make something like this company's paid ads, let's say, given my competitors, these parameters. So in this case, you are kind of giving some predefined rules for the generative AI to target exactly that niche category and the industry that you are trying to replicate in your campaign. But there is also this nicer unsupervised environment, right? So I wanted to bring a real life example of Rafik Anadolu. Like he does big expos and kind of in the world's largest museums. He used unsupervised learning, again, generative AI, to analyze top painters and artists' works. And then he creates spontaneously new works that no one is like the future of the future, like Marco described very well. So we have no idea how every 5-10 seconds the art will splash on the screen, right? Because he's using obviously very big gun and the generative unsupervised model in his programming, in his AI architecture. So I think that also has its own implications. It's just the environments tell us where and how we can utilize both supervised and unsupervised learning. I just wanted to chime in and bring a little bit engineer context to the conversation. But otherwise, coming back to Sean's question about Sean, would you repeat the question, please? How we adjust it for the marketing team? The last question.
Yeah, sure. So it was kind of, the key challenges that marketing teams encounter and how can they kind of mitigate against that?
Okay. What in my experience I'm seeing, and it's not just for junior marketers, but also even intermediate level. I wouldn't say, advanced marketers, usually they know because they used to work with many tools, CRMs and email and other providers. But usually junior to intermediate level marketers are struggling a lot in the beginning, especially. So for them, it's like a very new environment. So they are like, no, but I'm used to do this task in this amount of time. Basically, you are trying to make me uncomfortable, but all of us know that the real learning comes when we step out of our comfort zone, right? So it's kind of, you need a little bit more careful coaching one-on-one sessions, at least in the beginning with I would say junior to intermediate level marketers, trying to make the journey. Like for them, like imagine it's your user, you're onboarding them to your pipeline, your plan and the company. So they become also very happy and excited to explore this new world of generative AI that offers numerous possibilities for all of us. But I think you need a bit more care. Like I would say maybe weekly coaching sessions with marketers to onboard them. Usually advanced marketers are very fast. They are at least absorbing the information. You show them 1 or 2 sessions, they're already almost like pros, at least using different tool sets on the generative AI. But the other marketers need a bit more care and support in the beginning. And then you need to have a little bit of psychological understanding of different person's mentality as well. So, yeah, I mean, imagine this, like when new product is released, there are people who are early to adopt, that they call early adopters, right? And then people who are late adopters. So but we need to keep that in mind also for the AI environment while we are onboarding marketers. Some are skeptical, some are super happy, and some are, I don't know. I mean, maybe let's try. So that's kind of applies, I think, to the marketing environment as well.
Cool. And sort of following on from that, Søren, what would you say are some of the kind of potential ethical considerations that the kind of marketeers should anticipate when leveraging Gen AI, and how they navigate these responsibly while driving innovation?
That's another excellent question, Sean. So, especially with these deepfakes and these creative copyrights and like other issues, I think ethical and legal considerations are gaining momentum, and many countries and like the same European Union as the Union is trying to come up with I wouldn't say preventive, but with nice rules of the game, so everyone can follow the ethical and the legal aspects of generative AI. In my personal opinion, we need some regulation, but usually the innovation is ahead of the regulation, right? You know how they invented the airplane, like no one was asking for the regulation to take the first airplane to the test of this, right? So the guy who flew the first airplane or was driving the first train, they never waited for the stamp kind of to start that. So in that sense, I mean, I agree that innovation and regulation not necessarily go hand in hand, but for this current level of Gen AI and deepfakes and different issues which we keep seeing on the news, like this famous celebrity or person was replicated his face and he was telling something on the news which wasn't supposed to be there and stuff. So I think we need definitely some rules of the game to be reshaped. Otherwise, as GPT and other large LLM models keep emerging, we will have more and more, I think, issues also on that legal and ethical coming up. So, yeah, in my opinion, we need to be also a bit proactive in that regard as well, so we can get a little bit more defined rules of the game. But happy to hear also Marco's personal opinion, what he thinks about the regulation and ethical side of the AI. Okay.
No, I agree with you, Søren. Of course, there's a lot of things happening, and regulation won't keep up with everything. A lot of it will need to come from the tech companies. I was reading that both Meta and OpenAI already started to, they already started to find ways to identify and watermark AI generated images. So I think for us is in marketing in general, it's not only legal, there's going to be a lot of things that it comes with a new technology. There's privacy, there's bias, there's copyright. I learned a new term recently. I didn't even know what it is. It's disclosure, which is basically disclosing if someone employs generative AI to enhance their content or not. I didn't even know what disclosure means. So I think again, we need to talk about it, discuss it, and the important part is we also flag it to our commercial and institutional partners, because we can't assume that they all know that all of these things are happening. I remember, for instance, when I was working in Google, we had a huge issue, I think it was 2017, of brand safety on YouTube that was very, very well known in the newspapers, etc. And it took that issue happening to actually putting not only with Google, but also in Facebook, to put a lot of controls in place to control hateful content and things like that. So we have a really important, either as suppliers or partners or clients, to flag these things and not assume that people know, and trying to find solutions for it. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, that's an absolutely great point, Marco, actually. And I think we need to incorporate or institutionalize that within the training programs that organizations and companies has, because this is absolutely new for everyone right now. and going beyond, like you said, not just within the organizations, but also your partners, your suppliers that you work with, because this touches everything. And sometimes even, you might even be putting up sensitive data into these systems, which you're not really supposed to. So great point. So we have about 9 to 10 minutes left. So let's open up for Q&A. So ladies and gentlemen, you have any questions, please just raise your hand and I will bring you up on stage. You can ask a question or even share your own thoughts or insights. Hi, Warren. It's good to see you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
To everyone too. So it's something, it's more of a question, and it's also something that we're working on with regards to synthetic data. How is synthetic data, generated by Gen AI with regards to predictive marketing? So we're talking about trying to predict consumer behavior so that you can actually, design the marketing narrative around the prediction. So has anyone looked into this?
I can try to give it a shot. I don't know if I have a smart answer for that, Warren. I think in marketing, we have been, and I say that for starting with myself, too hooked on predicting consumer behavior instead of trying to identify the consumer behavior that is there already. That's what I think we've done for the last 2 years. I think now what you have is you will have consumer behavior that I believe is going to happen. We're going to heading back towards convergence. So people now are behaving in different channels. I think that's going to be probably a future. I don't know if it's going to be a Jarvis like Iron Man, something like that. But there's going to be one channel, which is the gate to everything that we consume, that we ask questions, that we put our behavior there. For me, the challenge as marketers is how we're going to tap into that data to then be able to the consumer insights that we were getting for so many channels right now, how we're going to tap into that to then develop value propositions and stories that actually make sense to the consumer. That's what I would say. I don't know, Soren, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, that's excellent points, Marco. So I'll just tell from my experience. Basically, what the synthetic data helped me in my own research and in the data set using these generative AI models, I figured out that at some point in my research, I was locked by underserved population in the data set. So it was some local research, let's say in Africa, but I was seeing some population. Sometimes, those nation statistical departments and stuff are very bad, especially in the third world countries, with all the respect. But yeah, how it is, right? Usually. So Gen AI was helping me with the market research and with kind of extending the data beyond the limited underserved population data I had. So I could construct more robust and at least more representable consumer profile for my business, for my specific research. Just wanted to bring an example for discussion.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it resonates because in the early days of pandemic, one of the underserved communities with regards to virtual experiences were those that not just those who couldn't travel, which is basically everyone, but those who are bedridden. Maybe they're not economically sufficient enough to travel, and maybe perhaps other reasons as well. So COVID actually exposed these underserved groups. But I think I just wanted to remark that I think synthetic data could actually help us evolve marketing, which is still currently very brand product oriented, not so much feature capability focused. So I think with all of the channels and the data points to be collected, and maybe with the synthetic data that can be also generated in a digital twin kind of environment of a consumer, then I think marketing is definitely going to be different.
So great points, Warren. There actually, even from a marketing perspective, where you're creating those different personas. So And if you have those data sets, AI can actually help create those diverse set of personas, and then you can test out different messaging, for example, in a much safer and a less risky kind of an environment. So it can help with that, and similarly with data augmentation as well. So you have a data sets, you want to augment that with additional data. So using GANs and Surin can maybe help dive a little more deeper into that. But you can use GANs to create those new data sets, which could further be validated, and they are much closer to the original one, so that there is some sort of continuity in that data to be able to authentically test whether it's messaging or whatever else that you're trying to test.
Akash, just a quick, a bit of a general level with the GANs and the synthetic data. I think it comes to the point if we are using this so-called feedback loop and adversarial training.
Yeah.
So depending on how we choose the let's call it the generator and the discriminator, right? So we need to be careful what generator we use while sampling the synthetic data. And then while we evaluate, distinguish between real and synthetic, how this discrimination process is formed. And then the more precise we implement in the sampling process and also analyzing, the better obviously will be our outcomes. And then GANs are basically used in multitude of areas. Just like you mentioned, marketing is one very well known, but there are also other not that well known areas, just like those underserved population due to the COVID limitations of travel. I think that's a really interesting use case, Warren. I would love to hear more if you have done some specific research as public. I'll definitely love to read it and see how it was conducted and provide my feedback as well. I'll just talk about that more in a general perspective for the whole audience to understand this. Basically, GANs need to be under the adversarial network and feedback loop, but the better you specify the determinator and the data set that you work with, the more precise will be your feedback process, basically, and then the ultimate results that will follow.
Okay, so let me circle back and put up one more thing, I think, which might be of interest to a lot of people here, specifically if they're coming from a market background. So the third-party cookies are on the way out, as we all know. So that, impacts a lot of things, what marketers do. So where does generative AI, if at all, fit into this to take over that empty territory? This is open to both. I mean, Marco, you want to take it, or Suren, you want to take it?
Yeah, I can comment on that. I worked a bit on it. It was interesting because that was before generative AI came. There was a huge focus on, I think, anticipating legislation, getting cookies to disappear. That got a bit postponed. I think we all need to figure out. I think going back to the previous question we were discussing, cookies were a way to identify consumer behavior and then target them in a very simplistic way. What is now going to change if we look about, I'll give you a very concrete example. Sometimes I look a bit crazy when I'm on the street because I'm talking to ChatGPT. I'm walking and I'm saying, hey, I had this idea, and I'm using the voice function. What do you think about this? Okay, he or she gives me an answer, whatever you want to call him or her, and I continue. So how are in a world where I was doing this search and this discussion in Google, and that was being captured in a way, or I was going to a website, how is this behavior going to be captured? I think that's the biggest challenge. I think we always will find a way, tech will find a way, because a lot of these tech companies work, basically, they subsidize the products they build based on advertising. But I think that's the key question. I don't know, Suren, if you have an opinion on this also.
That's a great point, Marco. Actually, yes, you're right. I mean, the entire internet, the fuel for internet is advertising, and that runs on the basis of cookies, where you're targeting specific consumer groups or consumers. So yeah, that is in space. I think that still needs to be addressed, really. It's out in the open. And let's see how that goes. Okay, awesome. So guys, if you...
I think the connection... Yeah, can you hear me? So I can sum up on the...
Yes, please. We are...
Yes,
go ahead.
So, So basically, it's a very tough topic as marketers are bargaining nowadays because we cannot rely anymore on the individual tracking. And I think some context of it started with this iOS versus Google struggle. You remember in the last iOS 14 and plus, they already limited the cookies and the targeting options that you could do with running paid ads and different campaigns. So I think that was just the first step towards this more scrutinized cookies policy environment. It's more like towards these policymakers also, right? It's like US GDPR, like EU and US has their own California Act of kind of consumer data protection. What I think generative AI can be used the same way. I think we need to use some guns and synthetic models to be able to spot some information that was otherwise previously available, but now we need to find the common and the different patterns in the limited data set. So in my opinion, more and more people need to be trained to go beyond the limited boundaries of the data. That's going to be a challenge, I would say, given this scrutiny with the privacy policy and the cookies that are coming up. So yeah, I think it's becoming a real challenge that marketers need to get trained and understand proactively how to reflect using some Gen AI or other models.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Suren, for your comment. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we come to an end of the session today. We're about 4 minutes over. Sean, do you have anything?
No, that's everything for me, I think. Good session and really enjoyed having Marco and Dr. Suren with us. I think we covered a lot and really, really good.
Yeah, all right. So thank you so much, Marco and Suren, for joining us today. Really, really appreciate your time. And thank you for your insight.
So much. And sorry for the noise as well, guys. I really wasn't, I had the last minute change in the rotor and the plan, so it was a bit...
No problem.
No worries.
No worries at all, mate.
So thank you so much. And people, please do reach out to Marco or Suren. If you have anything, feel free to connect with them and all of us on LinkedIn. And do follow our page so that you're updated on the future events as and when they get planned. So thank you so much for your time, everyone. And I hope this was useful. And if it was, please give us a thumbs up on the event page or give us your comments to help us improve. Everything's welcome. So thank you so much. Thank you, Marco.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Thanks everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, Martin. Good to see you.
Thanks, Aaron. Right.